The morning mist hung low over Pine Ridge Mountain as old Tom Wilson stepped onto his cabin porch with his first cup of coffee. At 72, he had grown used to the peaceful silence that surrounded his small wooden home, tucked away from the busy world below. The only sounds were usually the chirping of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind. That's why the soft crunch of footsteps on the gravel path caught his attention immediately. Tom squinted through his wire-rimmed glasses, trying to make out who could be visiting him at such an early hour. His nearest neighbor lived 5 miles away, and the mailman never came this far up the mountain. As the figures came closer, Tom's eyes widened in surprise. 2 small girls were walking slowly up his path, holding hands tightly. The older one looked to be around 10 years old, with dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. The younger girl, maybe 8, had lighter brown hair that fell to her shoulders. Both wore clean but clearly worn clothes, the older girl in a faded blue dress and the younger in pants that were a bit too big for her small frame. Tom set his coffee mug down on the wooden railing and watched as the girls approached. They moved carefully, as if they weren't sure they should be there. When they reached the bottom of his porch steps, they stopped and looked up at him with wide, nervous eyes. "Good morning, sir," the older girl said in a quiet voice. Her younger sister stayed slightly behind her, peeking out shyly. "Well, good morning to you too," Tom replied, his voice gentle but curious. "You girls are up pretty early. What brings you all the way up here?" The 2 sisters looked at each other, and Tom could see them having a silent conversation with their eyes. The older girl took a small step forward and cleared her throat. "Sir, we wanted to ask you something," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Our mama is real sick, and Daddy is working extra hours to pay for her medicine." Tom felt his heart sink a little. He came down the porch steps slowly, not wanting to tower over the small girls. "I'm sorry to hear about your mama. What's wrong with her?" "The doctor says it's pneumonia," the younger girl spoke up for the first time, her voice even softer than her sister's. "She can't stop coughing and she gets so tired." The older girl nodded and continued their story. "Daddy works at the lumber mill down in town. He's been working 16 hours every day to make extra money, but it's still not enough for Mama's medicine and food for all of us." Tom crouched down to be at their eye level. "What are your names, sweetheart?" "I'm Lily," the older girl said, "and this is my little sister Rose." "Those are beautiful names," Tom said with a warm smile. "I'm Mr. Wilson, but you can call me Tom, if you'd like." Rose smiled shyly at this, but Lily remained serious, as if she was carrying the weight of the world on her small shoulders. "Mr. Tom," Lily continued, "we walked up here because we heard you live alone, and we thought maybe you might need help with cleaning or other work around your cabin." Tom raised his eyebrows. "You want to work for me?" "Yes, sir," both girls said together. Their voices hopeful but still quiet, Lily explained further, "We're good workers." "I promise. Mama taught us how to clean properly before she got sick. Rose is really good at washing dishes without breaking them, and I can sweep and dust and organize things." "We don't need much money," Rose added quickly. "Just maybe some food to take home for Mama and our little brother." Tom felt a lump forming in his throat. These 2 young girls were trying to take care of their family in the only way they knew how. He looked at their earnest faces and saw determination mixed with desperation. "How far did you girls walk to get here?" he asked. "About 3 miles, Lily answered. "We left real early so we could be here when you woke up." Tom shook his head in amazement. These children had walked 3 miles before sunrise, just to ask. For work, he could see their shoes were old and worn, probably handed down from someone else. "Well," Tom said slowly, standing back up, "I suppose I could use some help around here. This old cabin does get pretty dusty, and I'm not as good at keeping things organized as I used to be." The girls' faces lit up with hope and relief. "But," Tom continued, "I have some rules. First, you'll eat breakfast before we do any work. Second, you'll take breaks when I tell you to. And third, you'll let me make sure you get home safely." Lily and Rose looked at each other again, this time with excitement instead of nervousness. "Yes, sir," they said together. Tom chuckled. "All right, then." Come on up to the porch and we'll figure out what needs doing. As the girls climbed the wooden steps, Tom noticed how carefully they moved, as if they were afraid of taking up too much space or making too much noise. It reminded him of his teaching days, when he would sometimes have students who were going through hard times at home. "Have you girls eaten anything this morning?" he asked. They shook their heads, and Tom could hear Lily's stomach rumble quietly. "Well, we can't have you working on empty stomachs," Tom said, opening his front door. "Let's get some pancakes started." The inside of Tom's cabin was simple but cozy. There was a small kitchen area, a living room with a fireplace, and a bedroom in the back. Everything was clean but had the slightly cluttered look of someone who lived alone and didn't worry too much about keeping things perfectly organized. As Tom pulled out ingredients for pancakes, the girls stood near the door still, holding hands. "You can sit down at the table," Tom said, gesturing to a small wooden table with 2 chairs. "I'll get another chair from the bedroom." While the pancakes cooked, Tom learned more about the girls and their family. Their father worked at the mill. That was about a 20-minute drive from town. Their mother had gotten sick about a month ago, and the medicine was expensive. They had a 4-year-old brother named Danny who stayed with their neighbor during the day while their father worked. "Mama tries to take care of Danny, but she gets so tired," Rose explained, eating her pancakes slowly to make them last. "And, Daddy comes home so late and tired that we try to help as much as we can," Lily added. Tom watched these 2 young girls talk about their family struggles with such maturity. They weren't complaining or feeling sorry for themselves. They were simply doing what they thought needed to be done. After breakfast, Tom showed them around the cabin, pointing out areas that could use attention. The girls listened carefully to his instructions and immediately got to work. Lily started dusting the shelves and furniture while Rose carefully washed the breakfast dishes. Tom settled into his favorite rocking chair and watched them work. They moved with purpose and care, treating his belongings with respect. Every few minutes, they would check with each other, making sure they were doing everything right. As the morning went on, Tom found himself thinking about his own life. He had been a teacher for 40 years before retiring to this quiet mountain cabin. He had always loved working with children, and watching these 2 reminded him of why. Their determination and love for their family touched something deep in his heart. When the girls finished their tasks, Tom packed a bag with groceries from his pantry: bread, canned soup, rice, and some fresh fruit he had bought in town the day before. "This is for your family," he said, handing the bag to Lily. The girl's eyes filled with tears of gratitude. "Thank you so much, Mr. Tom," Lily whispered. "When can we come back?" Rose asked hopefully. Tom smiled. "How about tomorrow morning, same time?" As he watched the 2 sisters walk back down his mountain path, Tom felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. These girls had given him a purpose again, and he was already looking forward to their return. The next morning, Tom woke up earlier than usual. He found himself checking the clock every few minutes, wondering if Lily and Rose would actually return. Part of him worried that yesterday had been too good to be true, that maybe their father had forbidden them from coming back to work for a stranger. At exactly 7:30, he heard the familiar sound of small footsteps on his gravel path. Tom smiled to himself as he watched the 2 girls approach through his kitchen window. They walked with more confidence today, though they still held hands as they climbed his porch steps. "Good morning, Mr. Tom," Rose called out, her voice brighter than yesterday. "Good morning, girls," Tom replied, opening the door before they could knock. "Right on time." Lily carried a small cloth bag in her free hand. "We brought something for you," she said shyly. Tom raised his eyebrows with curiosity as Lily opened the bag and pulled out 4 wildflowers, purple violets and yellow buttercups that grew wild on the mountainside. "Rose picked these on our walk up here," Lily explained. "We thought they might look nice on your table." Tom felt his heart warm as he accepted the simple bouquet. "These are beautiful. Thank you both very much." He found a small glass jar to use as a vase and placed the flowers in the center of his kitchen table. The splash of color immediately made the cabin feel more alive and welcoming. "Now then," Tom said. Let's get some breakfast in you before we start working. Over scrambled eggs and toast, the girls told Tom more about their family. Their mother was feeling a little better yesterday evening, though she was still too weak to get out of bed for long periods. Their father had been grateful for the food they brought home and wanted to thank Tom personally, but his work schedule made it impossible. Daddy said we should always be polite and work extra hard to show our appreciation, Lily said seriously. He also said if we ever make you uncomfortable or if you don't want us here anymore, we should understand and not be upset, Rose added. Tom set down his coffee cup and looked at both girls. Girls, I want you to know something. Having you here makes this old cabin feel like a home again. You're not bothering me at all. The relief on their faces was clear. Tom realized they had been worried all morning that he might send them away. After breakfast, the girls got right to work. Tom was amazed at how thorough and careful they were. Lily had brought an old rag from home and was methodically dusting every surface in his living room. She moved his books and knickknacks carefully, dusting underneath them before placing them back exactly where they belonged. Meanwhile, Rose had positioned herself at the kitchen sink, washing yesterday's dishes along with the breakfast plates. Tom watched as she stood on her tiptoes to reach the faucet properly, her tongue sticking out slightly in concentration as she scrubbed each dish clean. Rose, there's a step stool in the pantry closet that might help you reach better, Tom offered Rose's face lit up. Thank you. My arms were getting tired from stretching so high. As the morning progressed, Tom found himself genuinely impressed by their work ethic. These weren't just children going through the motions, they took pride in doing things right. When Lily finished dusting, she started organizing his bookshelf, grouping similar books together and making sure they were all straight. Mr. Tom, you have so many books, she exclaimed. Do you really read all of these? Most of them, Tom chuckled. I was a school teacher for many years, so I collected quite a few over time. What did you teach? Rose asked, taking a break from washing dishes. 3rd and 4th grade, mostly. Sometimes I taught older kids, too. Lily's eyes widened. That's exactly what grade I'm in. 4th grade. And I'm in 2nd grade, Rose added proudly. Tom felt another piece of his heart soften. No wonder these girls seemed so familiar to him. They were the same age as many of his former students. Are you girls keeping up with your schoolwork? He asked gently. The sisters exchanged a look, and Tom could see some worry pass between them. We've missed quite a few days lately, Lily admitted. When Mama first got sick, someone needed to stay home with Danny while Daddy worked. And now, Now, we're spending our time working to help the family. Tom finished understanding. Both girls nodded, looking a bit ashamed. There's nothing wrong with helping your family, Tom said firmly. But education is important too. Tell you what, how about we make a deal? The girls looked at him with interest. When you finish your work here each day, we'll spend some time on your schoolwork. I can help you catch up on anything you've missed. Lily and Rose looked at each other with excitement. Really? You would do that? Lily asked. Of course. It would be my pleasure. As if to prove their eagerness to learn, Rose immediately started asking Tom about the books on his shelf. She could read simple words but struggled with longer ones. Tom pulled out a children's book about forest animals and sat with her at the kitchen table while Lily continued organizing. This word is squirrel, Tom said, pointing to the page. Can you sound it out? Rose concentrated hard, breaking the word into parts. Squi. Squirrel. Excellent, Tom praised. You're a very good reader, Rose. Meanwhile, Lily had discovered Tom's collection of National Geographic magazines and was flipping through one with wide eyes. These pictures are amazing, she said. Is this really what other places in the world look like? Tom came over to see what she was looking at, a photo spread of the African savanna with elephants and zebras. It certainly is. The world is full of incredible places and amazing animals. I'd love to see places like this someday, Lily said wistfully. Maybe you will, Tom said. Education can take you anywhere you want to go. As the girls worked, Tom learned more about their daily routine. They woke up at 6 every morning to help their father get ready for work. Before leaving for the lumber mill, he would check on their mother and give the girls instructions for the day. After he left, they would make breakfast for their little brother Danny and get him ready to go to the neighbor's house. "Mrs. Chun lives down the road from us," Rose explained. "She's really nice and doesn't mind watching Danny during the day. She has a big garden and lets Danny help her water the plants," Lily added. "He loves being outside." Tom could tell how much the girls loved their little brother. They talked about him with such affection, describing how he would run to greet them when they picked him up each evening and how he always wanted to hear stories before bedtime. "What kind of stories does he like?" Tom asked. "Adventure stories." "Mostly," Lily said, "about brave knights and friendly dragons." "I make up different voices for all the characters?" Rose added with a giggle. "Danny thinks it's hilarious when I do the dragon voice." As the morning wore on, Tom noticed that the girls never complained or asked for breaks. They simply worked steadily, taking care of his home as if it were their own. When they finished the main cleaning tasks, they asked if there was anything else they could do. "Well," Tom said thoughtfully, "my back porch could use sweeping, and there are some leaves that have blown up against the cabin walls." Without hesitation, both girls headed outside to tackle these new tasks. Tom watched through his window as they worked together, Lily sweeping while Rose gathered the leaves into neat piles. Around noon, Tom called them in for lunch. He had prepared simple sandwiches and fresh apple slices. As they ate, the girls told him more about their hopes and dreams. "I want to be a teacher like you when I grow up," Lily said. "I love helping Rose with her reading, and I think it would be fun to help other kids learn too." "I want to be a doctor," Rose announced. "So I can help people feel better, like the doctor who's helping Mama." Tom smiled at their ambitions. Despite everything their family was going through, these girls still had big dreams for their futures. When lunch was finished and the dishes were clean, Tom kept his promise about schoolwork. He found some old workbooks from his teaching days and helped Lily with math problems she had missed. Rose practiced reading aloud while Tom listened patiently and helped her with difficult words. "You girls are both very smart," Tom told them as they worked. "Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." As the afternoon drew to a close, Tom packed another bag of groceries for the girls to take home. This time he included some ingredients for soup, knowing their mother might find it easier to eat than solid food. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked as the girls prepared to leave. "Yes, sir," they said together. As Tom watched them walk down his mountain path once again, he realized something important had changed in his life. For the first time in years, he was looking forward to tomorrow. These two remarkable girls had brought purpose and joy back into his quiet world, and he was grateful for every moment of it. By the end of the first week, Tom found himself setting his alarm clock 15 minutes earlier each morning. Not because he needed the extra time, but because he enjoyed watching for the girls through his kitchen window. Seeing Lily and Rose walking up his path had become the best part of his day. On this particular Friday morning, something was different. Instead of their usual quiet approach, he could hear soft giggling coming from outside. Tom opened his door to find both girls crouched down near his porch steps, looking at something on the ground. "What have you two found?" Tom asked, stepping outside with his morning coffee. "Mr. Tom, look," Rose whispered excitedly, pointing to a small chipmunk that was sitting perfectly still near his firewood pile. "He's been watching us for the past 5 minutes. Lily held up her hand to signal for quiet. "I think he's curious about us." Tom smiled as he watched the girls observe the little creature with such fascination. The chipmunk seemed just as interested in them, tilting his tiny head from side to side as if trying to figure out what these small humans were doing in his territory. "I think he wants to be friends," Rose said softly. As if he understood her words, the chipmunk suddenly scampered up onto the porch railing, sat back on his hind legs, and began chattering at them in his high-pitched voice. All three of them burst into quiet laughter at the chipmunk's bold behavior. "Well, I think you've made your first woodland friend," Tom said to the girls. From that morning on, the chipmunk became a regular part of their routine. The girls named him Acorn, and he would often appear while they worked, as if supervising their progress. As the days turned into weeks, Tom began to see changes in both girls. Lily, who had seemed so serious and worried when they first met, started to relax and smile more often. She would hum quietly while she worked and had begun asking Tom dozens of questions about everything from how mountains were formed to why leaves changed colors in autumn. Rose, meanwhile, had grown more confident and talkative. Her reading was improving rapidly with Tom's daily help, and she had started bringing him pictures she drew at home. The drawings were simple but full of life: flowers, butterflies, her family, and always Tom's cabin with all three of them standing happily on the porch. "This is my favorite one," Tom said one afternoon, holding up a drawing Rose had made of him reading a book to both girls under a big tree. "May I keep it?" Rose beamed with pride. "Really? You want to keep it?" "I'd be honored to," Tom replied, and he meant it. That evening he carefully taped the drawing to his refrigerator, where he could see it every morning. The work routine had settled into a comfortable pattern. After breakfast, Lily would tackle the more detailed cleaning tasks while Rose handled simpler jobs like organizing Tom's kitchen supplies or watering the small herb garden he had started near his back door. But the real magic happened during their afternoon learning sessions. Tom had discovered that both girls were naturally curious and eager to learn. Lily showed a particular talent for mathematics and would work through problems with intense concentration, her face lighting up when she found the right answer. Rose loved stories and had memorized several short poems that Tom had taught her, which she would recite dramatically while standing on his porch. "Listen to this one, Mr. Tom," Rose announced one day, clearing her throat importantly. "I see the moon, and the moon sees me. God bless the moon, and God bless me." "Beautiful," Tom applauded. "You have excellent expression in your voice." These moments reminded Tom why he had loved teaching so much. Watching children discover new ideas and gain confidence in their abilities was one of life's greatest joys. One afternoon, while helping Lily with a particularly challenging math problem, Tom noticed her glancing frequently at his old guitar, which hung on the wall near his fireplace. "Do you play music, Lily?" he asked. She shook her head but continued looking at the guitar with interest. "I've always wondered what it would be like to make music. We hear songs on Daddy's old radio sometimes, and they're so pretty." Tom stood up and carefully took the guitar down from the wall. "Would you like to try?" Both girls' eyes widened with excitement. "Really?" Lily breathed. Tom sat back down and positioned the guitar across his lap. "Let me show you a few simple chords first." His fingers, though aged, still remembered their way around the instrument. He strummed a gentle chord, and the sweet sound filled the cabin. "Oh," Rose gasped. "That's beautiful." Tom taught them a simple song, just 3 chords that he showed them how to hold. Lily's small fingers struggled at first to press the strings properly, but she was determined to learn. Rose was content to sing along, her clear voice adding a lovely melody to the music. "We should sing this for Mama," Lily said excitedly. "Music always makes her feel better." "What kind of songs does your mother like?" Tom asked. "She sings lullabies to Danny at bedtime," Rose said. "Really soft, gentle songs that make you feel safe." That gave Tom an idea. Over the next few days, he taught the girls several simple lullabies and folk songs. They practiced during their afternoon breaks, and Tom was amazed at how quickly they picked up both the music and the words. The girls had also begun sharing more stories about their daily life at home. Tom learned that their father, despite working such long hours, always made time to ask about their day and help Danny with his bedtime routine. Their mother, even while sick, would listen to them read and help them with any problems they were having. "Daddy says Mama is getting a little stronger each week," Lily shared one day while organizing Tom's bookshelf. "Yesterday she was able to sit up for almost an hour without getting too tired." "That's wonderful news," Tom said, feeling genuinely happy for their family. "She wants to meet you," Rose added. "She says any man who is kind to her daughters must be a very special person." Tom felt honored by this sentiment. I'd like to meet her too when she's feeling well enough. As their third week together began, Tom noticed that the girls had started treating his cabin almost like a second home. They knew where everything belonged, had memorized his daily routines, and had even started suggesting small improvements. Mr. Tom, what if we planted some flower seeds near your front steps? Lily suggested one morning. Rose and I could take care of them, and they would make your cabin look even prettier. I think that's a wonderful idea, Tom agreed. We could go into town this weekend and pick out some seeds together. This casual comment about going to town together marked a significant moment. Tom realized he no longer thought of the girls as just children who came to work for him. They had become like family that afternoon. While the girls were outside collecting kindling for his fireplace, Tom found himself looking around his cabin with new eyes. Rose's drawings covered his refrigerator. Lily had organized his books in a way that actually made more sense than his old system, and fresh wildflowers brightened his table every day. The cabin felt alive and warm in a way it hadn't for years. When the girls came back inside, their arms full of small branches and twigs, Tom was sitting in his rocking chair with a thoughtful expression. "Is everything okay, Mr. Tom?" Lily asked. Noticing his contemplative mood, Tom smiled at both of them. "Everything is more than okay. I was just thinking about how much happier this old place is with you two here." Rose dropped her armload of kindling and ran over to give Tom an unexpected hug. "We're happy here too," she said simply. Lily joined them, and for a moment, the three of them stood together in the warm afternoon light streaming through the cabin windows. Tom felt a contentment he hadn't experienced in years. As evening approached, and the girls prepared to head home with their daily bag of groceries, Tom realized something important had happened. What had started as a simple work arrangement had grown into something much deeper. These two remarkable children had filled an emptiness in his life that he hadn't even realized existed. "Same time Monday morning?" Tom asked, as he did every day. "We'll be here," Lily promised, as Tom watched them walk down his mountain path. He was already looking forward to Monday morning and whatever new adventures the coming week would bring. By the end of the first week, Tom found himself setting his alarm clock 15 minutes earlier each morning. Not because he needed the extra time, but because he enjoyed watching for the girls through his kitchen window. Seeing Lily and Rose walking up his path had become the best part of his day. On this particular Friday morning, something was different. Instead of their usual quiet approach, he could hear soft giggling coming from outside. Tom opened his door to find both girls crouched down near his porch steps, looking at something on the ground. "What have you two found?" Tom asked, stepping outside with his morning coffee. "Mr. Tom, look," Rose whispered excitedly, pointing to a small chipmunk that was sitting perfectly still near his firewood pile. "He's been watching us for the past 5 minutes." Lily held up her hand to signal for quiet. "I think he's curious about us." Tom smiled as he watched the girls observe the little creature with such fascination. The chipmunk seemed just as interested in them, tilting his tiny head from side to side as if trying to figure out what these small humans were doing in his territory. "I think he wants to be friends," Rose said softly. As if he understood her words, the chipmunk suddenly scampered up onto the porch railing, sat back on his hind legs, and began chattering at them in his high-pitched voice. All three of them burst into quiet laughter at the chipmunk's bold behavior. "Well, I think you've made your first woodland friend," Tom said to the girls. From that morning on, the chipmunk became a regular part of their routine. The girls named him Acorn, and he would often appear while they worked, as if supervising their progress. As the days turned into weeks, Tom began to see changes in both girls. Lily, who had seemed so serious and worried when they first met, started to relax and smile more often. She would hum quietly while she worked and had begun asking Tom dozens of questions about everything from how mountains were formed to why leaves changed colors in autumn. Rose, meanwhile, had grown more confident and talkative. Her reading was improving rapidly with Tom's daily help, and she had started bringing him pictures she drew at home. The drawings were simple, but full of life: flowers, butterflies, her family, and always Tom's cabin with all three of them standing happily on the porch. "This is my favorite one," Tom said one afternoon, holding up a drawing Rose had made of him reading a book to both girls under a big tree. "May I keep it?" Rose beamed with pride. "Really? You want to keep it?" "I'd be honored to," Tom replied, and he meant it. That evening he carefully taped the drawing to his refrigerator, where he could see it every morning. The work routine had settled into a comfortable pattern. After breakfast, Lily would tackle the more detailed cleaning tasks while Rose handled simpler jobs like organizing Tom's kitchen supplies or watering the small herb garden he had started near his back door. But the real magic happened during their afternoon learning sessions. Tom had discovered that both girls were naturally curious and eager to learn. Lily showed a particular talent for mathematics and would work through problems with intense concentration, her face lighting up when she found the right answer. Rose loved stories and had memorized several short poems that Tom had taught her, which she would recite dramatically while standing on his porch. "Listen to this one, Mr. Tom," Rose announced one day, clearing her throat importantly. "I see the moon, and the moon sees me. God bless the moon, and God bless me." "Beautiful," Tom applauded. "You have excellent expression in your voice." These moments reminded Tom why he had loved teaching so much. Watching children discover new ideas and gain confidence in their abilities was one of life's greatest joys. One afternoon, while helping Lily with a particularly challenging math problem, Tom noticed her glancing frequently at his old guitar, which hung on the wall near his fireplace. "Do you play music, Lily?" he asked. She shook her head but continued looking at the guitar with interest. "I've always wondered what it would be like to make music. We hear songs on Daddy's old radio sometimes, and they're so pretty." Tom stood up and carefully took the guitar down from the wall. "Would you like to try?" Both girls' eyes widened with excitement. "Really?" Lily breathed. Tom sat back down and positioned the guitar across his lap. "Let me show you a few simple chords first." His fingers, though aged, still remembered their way around the instrument. He strummed a gentle chord, and the sweet sound filled the cabin. "Oh," Rose gasped. "That's beautiful." Tom taught them a simple song, just 3 chords that he showed them how to hold. Lily's small fingers struggled at first to press the strings properly, but she was determined to learn. Rose was content to sing along, her clear voice adding a lovely melody to the music. "We should sing this for Mama," Lily said excitedly. "Music always makes her feel better." "What kind of songs does your mother like?" Tom asked. "She sings lullabies to Danny at bedtime," Rose said. "Really soft, gentle songs that make you feel safe." That gave Tom an idea. Over the next few days, he taught the girls several simple lullabies and folk songs. They practiced during their afternoon breaks, and Tom was amazed at how quickly they picked up both the music and the words. The girls had also begun sharing more stories about their daily life at home. Tom learned that their father, despite working such long hours, always made time to ask about their day and help Danny with his bedtime routine. Their mother, even while sick, would listen to them read and help them with any problems they were having. "Daddy says Mama is getting a little stronger each week," Lily shared one day while organizing Tom's bookshelf. "Yesterday she was able to sit up for almost an hour without getting too tired." "That's wonderful news," Tom said, feeling genuinely happy for their family. "She wants to meet you," Rose added. "She says any man who is kind to her daughters must be a very special person." Tom felt honored by this sentiment. "I'd like to meet her too when she's feeling well enough." As their 3rd week together began, Tom noticed that the girls had started treating his cabin almost like a second home. They knew where everything belonged, had memorized his daily routines, and had even started suggesting small improvements. "Mr. Tom, what if we planted some flower seeds near your front steps?" Lily suggested one morning. "Rose and I could take care of them, and they would make your cabin look even prettier." "I think that's a wonderful idea," Tom agreed. "We could go into town this weekend and pick out some seeds together." This casual comment about going to town together marked a significant moment. Tom realized he no longer thought of the girls as just children who came to work for him. They had become like family that afternoon. While the girls were outside collecting kindling for his fireplace, Tom found himself looking around his cabin with new eyes. Rose's drawings covered his refrigerator Lily had organized his books in, a way that actually made more sense than his old system, and fresh wildflowers brightened his table every day. The cabin felt alive and warm in a way it hadn't for years. When the girls came back inside, their arms full of small branches and twigs, Tom was sitting in his rocking chair with a thoughtful expression. "Is everything okay, Mr. Tom?" Lily asked. Noticing his contemplative mood, Tom smiled at both of them. "Everything is more than okay. I was just thinking about how much happier this old place is with you two here." Rose dropped her armload of kindling and ran over to give Tom an unexpected hug. "We're happy here too," she said simply. Lily joined them, and for a moment, the three of them stood together in the warm afternoon light streaming through the cabin windows. Tom felt a contentment he hadn't experienced in years. As evening approached, and the girls prepared to head home with their daily bag of groceries, Tom realized something important had happened. What had started as a simple work arrangement had Monday morning brought an unexpected visitor to Pine Ridge. Tom was just finishing his breakfast when he heard a car engine chugging up his mountain road. Looking out his window, he saw an old blue pickup truck making its way toward his cabin. The girls weren't due for another hour, so he was curious about who could be visiting so early. The truck stopped near his porch, and out stepped Betty Patterson, who owned the general store down. In town, Tom had known Betty for years. She was one of those people who seemed to know everything that happened in their small community. "Morning, Tom," Betty called out, waving as she walked toward his porch. "Hope you don't mind me dropping by unannounced." "Not at all, Betty. What brings you up the mountain?" Tom asked, stepping outside to greet her. Betty's expression was a mix of curiosity and concern. "Well, I've been hearing some interesting stories in town, and I wanted to ask you about them directly." Tom invited her to sit on his porch and offered her coffee, which she gratefully accepted. The morning air was crisp, as steam rose from their mugs as they settled into the wooden chairs. "So what kind of stories are you hearing?" Tom asked, though he had a feeling he already knew. Betty took a sip of her coffee and leaned forward slightly. "People are talking about two little girls who've been thrown into something much deeper. These two remarkable children had filled an emptiness in his life that he hadn't even realized existed." "Same time Monday morning?" Tom asked, as he did every day. "We'll be here," Lily promised as Tom watched them walk down his mountain path. He was already looking forward to Monday morning and whatever new adventures the coming week would bring. The first snowfall came earlier than anyone expected. Tom woke up on a Tuesday morning in late October to find his cabin surrounded by 3 inches of fresh white snow. Beautiful as it was, his first thought wasn't about the scenery. It was about Lily and Rose walking 3 miles through this weather. He stood at his kitchen window, coffee in hand, watching the path anxiously. The girls were usually punctual, arriving at 7:30 every morning, but today the path remained empty as 8 o'clock approached. Just as Tom was starting to seriously worry, he spotted 2 small figures moving slowly up the mountain. The girls were bundled up in thin jackets that looked far too small for the weather, and they were moving much more carefully than usual on the slippery path. Tom immediately grabbed his own heavy coat and boots and hurried outside to meet them halfway. "Down the path? Girls? You shouldn't have walked all this way in the snow," he called out as he approached them. When he reached them, Tom's heart sank. Both girls were shivering despite their efforts to hide it. Their shoes were soaked through, and their cheeks were bright red from the cold wind. "We're okay, Mr. Tom," Lily said through chattering teeth, though her voice wasn't very convincing. "We didn't want to miss work," Rose added, her small hands buried deep in her jacket pockets. Tom immediately wrapped his arms around both girls and guided them quickly toward the warm cabin. "Let's get you inside before you catch pneumonia." Once in the cabin, Tom sat the girls near his fireplace and helped them remove their wet shoes and socks. Their feet were ice cold and turning purple around the toes. "This is not okay," Tom said firmly, though his voice was gentle. You could have gotten frostbite walking in weather like this without proper boots. He wrapped their feet in warm towels and made them hot chocolate while they sat shivering by the fire. As feeling returned to their toes, both girls began to cry quietly, not from the pain but from exhaustion and worry. "What's wrong, sweethearts?" Tom asked, kneeling down beside them. Through her tears, Lily explained what had been happening at home. "Mama got worse again last week. She started coughing up blood, and Daddy had to take her to the hospital in the big city. The doctor said she needs a different medicine now," Rose continued, "but it costs so much money that Daddy had to borrow from his boss at the lumber mill." Tom felt his stomach drop. "How is she now?" "She's home, but she's so weak she can barely sit up," Lily said, "and Daddy Daddy hurt his back really bad at work yesterday. He was lifting heavy boards and something went wrong. He can't go to work for at least 2 weeks," Rose whispered. "Maybe longer." Tom sat back on his heels, trying to process this devastating news. This family was facing one crisis after another, and now winter was making everything harder. "Girls, listen to me," Tom said seriously. "I don't want you walking up here anymore when the weather is like this. It's too dangerous." The panic that crossed both girls' faces was immediate and heartbreaking. "But Mr. Tom, we need to work," Lily pleaded. "If we don't earn food, our family won't have enough to eat." "Please don't fire us," Rose begged, fresh tears starting to fall. Tom quickly pulled both girls into a hug. "I'm not firing you. I'm worried about your safety. There has to be a better way." As the girls warmed up and ate breakfast, Tom's mind was racing. The situation had become much more serious than simple work for groceries. This family was facing real poverty and potential hunger, especially with the father unable to work. Around 10 o'clock, they were interrupted by the sound of a car struggling up the snowy mountain road. Through the window, Tom saw Pastor Williams' old sedan slowly making its way toward the cabin. The pastor knocked on the door, his face red from cold and creased with worry. "Tom, thank goodness you're here," he said as Tom let him in. "I went to the lumber mill this morning to inquire about work opportunities for the girl's father, and I learned about his injury." The pastor nodded gravely at the girls, who had grown quiet and worried at the mention of their father. "How bad is it?" Tom asked quietly. "Bad enough that he'll be out of work for several weeks, possibly months. The mill doesn't offer paid sick leave, so the family will have no income during that time." Tom felt a surge of anger at the unfairness of it all. A hardworking man gets hurt on the job and loses his income when he needs it most. Pastor Williams continued, "I also stopped by their house to check on the family. Tom, the conditions there are cold. The house is barely heated, and there's almost no food in the kitchen." The girls looked ashamed and embarrassed as the pastor described their home situation. "We keep the house as clean as we can," Lily said defensively. "Oh, sweetheart, there's nothing wrong with your housekeeping," Pastor Williams said gently. "You girls take wonderful care of your family. The problem is that your parents are too proud to ask for help, even when they desperately need it." That afternoon, as the snow continued to fall, Tom made a decision. He couldn't let these children continue walking dangerous distances in increasingly harsh weather, especially when their family was facing such serious problems. "Girls, I want you to listen carefully to what I'm about to say," Tom began. "The work arrangement we have isn't going to work anymore. Not because you're not good workers, but because winter is coming and it's not safe for you to walk so far in bad weather." The girls' faces fell and Tom could see them trying not to cry. "But," Tom continued quickly, "that doesn't mean I'm abandoning you. It means we need to find a better solution." He explained his new plan. Instead of the girls walking to his cabin every day, Tom would drive down to town several times a week to check on their family and bring supplies. He would also talk to other people in the community about finding ways to help that wouldn't hurt the family's pride. "You mean you'll still help us?" Rose asked hopefully. "Of course I will. You girls have become like family to me. Families take care of each other, especially during hard times." That evening, Tom and Pastor Williams drove down the mountain together to visit the girls' family for the first time. The house was small and simple, but clean and filled with love. The girl's mother, Maria, was clearly very sick but managed to sit up in bed to meet them. Their father, Robert, was lying on the couch with his back injury but struggled to stand when they arrived. "Please don't get up," Tom said quickly. "We just wanted to meet you and see how we could help." "My daughters have told me so much about you, Mr. Wilson," Maria said in a weak but warm voice. "I can't thank you enough for your kindness to them." Little Danny, the 4-year-old brother, peeked out shyly from behind his sisters before eventually warming up to the visitors. He was clearly the light of the family's life, and everyone doted on him despite their struggles. As Tom and Pastor Williams drove back up the mountain that night, both men were quiet, processing what they had seen. "Tom," the pastor finally said, "this family needs more help than either of us can provide alone." "I know," Tom replied, "but they're good people, and they deserve to maintain their dignity while they get back on their feet." "Agreed. I think it's time to bring the whole community together. There are ways to help that honor their desire to work for what they receive." As Tom prepared for bed that night, he looked out his window at the snow still falling steadily. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he was determined to find solutions. Lily and Rose had brought purpose back into his life, and now it was his turn to make sure their family survived this difficult winter. The little girls who had whispered their desperate request just weeks ago had changed everything. Now Tom was ready to move mountains, or at least mobilize a mountain community to help them. The next morning, Tom woke up with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. He made his coffee, looked out at the fresh snow covering his mountain, and picked up his phone to call Pastor Williams. "Pastor, it's Tom. I've been thinking all night about Robert and Maria's family. We need to do something, and we need to do it soon." "I've been thinking the same thing," Pastor Williams replied. "I barely slept. That little house is going to be freezing once the real winter weather hits, and they don't have money for heating oil." "What if we called a meeting?" Tom suggested. "Get together the people who already know about the situation and see what we can come up with." By noon, Pastor Williams had contacted Betty Patterson, Dr. Henderson, who had been treating Maria, and Mrs. Chun, the neighbor who watched little Danny. They all agreed to meet that evening at the church. Tom spent the afternoon thinking about Lily and Rose. He missed their cheerful voices and the sound of their footsteps on his porch. His cabin felt empty and too quiet without them. He realized that helping their family wasn't just about doing the right thing. It was about bringing his 2 honorary granddaughters back into his life safely. At 6 o'clock, Tom drove down to the small white church where the others were already gathered in the cozy meeting room behind the main sanctuary. Betty had brought a notebook and was ready to take notes. Dr. Henderson looked tired but determined. Mrs. Chun, a small woman with kind eyes, was quietly sipping tea from a thermos. "Thank you all for coming," Pastor Williams began. "We're here because a family in our community needs help, but we want to provide that help in a way that preserves their dignity." Dr. Henderson spoke first. "I've been treating Maria for free, but she needs medications that I can't provide without cost. The new medicine for her pneumonia runs about $200 a month." Everyone in the room winced at the amount. Betty pulled out her notebook. "What about Robert's situation at the lumber mill? How long will he be out of work?" "At least 6 weeks, possibly longer," Pastor Williams answered. "His supervisor says the company will hold his job, but there's no paid leave." Mrs. Chun, who had been quiet until now, cleared her throat softly. "I've been watching little Danny for months now, and I don't mind continuing. But I've noticed the children are getting thinner. They try to hide it, but they're not getting enough to eat." Tom felt his heart ache at this news. "We need to act fast, but we also need to be smart about it. This family has pride, and rightfully so. Robert works hard, and Maria kept their home beautiful before she got sick." "They're not looking for charity." "Exactly," Pastor Williams agreed. "So what if we created opportunities for them to earn what they need?" Betty tapped her pen against her notebook. "What kind of opportunities?" Tom had been thinking about this all day. "What if we created a winter employment program for the girls? Real jobs with real pay, not just charity disguised as work." Dr. Henderson leaned forward with interest. "What kind of jobs?" Well, Betty, doesn't your store get busier during the holiday season? Tom asked. Betty's eyes lit up. Actually, yes. I could use help organizing inventory and keeping the shelves stocked. And the girls are so polite and careful. Customers would love them. My church library has needed organizing for years, Pastor Williams added. And our fellowship hall could use regular cleaning. I could pay them the same rate I'd pay an adult. Mrs. Chun spoke up again. My late husband left me with a big garden that I can't manage alone anymore. Come spring, I could hire the girls to help me plant and maintain it. Fresh vegetables would be good for their whole family. Tom felt excitement building. Dr. Henderson, what about Maria? Once she starts feeling better, is there any work she could do from home? Dr. Henderson thought for a moment. Actually, yes. I've been needing someone to help organize patient files and handle simple bookkeeping. It's work she could do sitting down at her own pace. And Robert? Betty asked. Pastor Williams had an idea. The church has been needing some handyman work done, small repairs, painting, things like that. Nothing too strenuous. Once his back heals, he could work on those projects. As the group continued brainstorming, their list of opportunities grew. The local school needed someone to help in the cafeteria during lunch hours. The town's small library needed assistance with their upcoming book sale. Even old Mr. Garcia, who ran the hardware store, mentioned that he could use help during busy weekend hours. But we need to be careful about how we present this, Tom cautioned. If we suddenly show up with a list of job offers, they'll know we organized this specifically for them. Betty had an idea. What if we each approach them separately over the next week or two? Make it seem like these opportunities came up naturally? That could work, Pastor Williams agreed. We just need to coordinate so we don't overwhelm them. All at once, Dr. Henderson raised another important point. What about their immediate needs? They need food and heating oil now, not after they start earning money from these jobs. This was the trickiest part. How do you help a proud family with their basic needs without making them feel like charity cases? Mrs. Chun had a suggestion. What if some of us paid the girls in advance for work they'll do later, like a signing bonus? That's brilliant, Tom said. Betty, you could pay them a week's wages up front and say it's standard practice for new employees. And I could do the same thing, Pastor Williams added. Say the church always provides in advance to help people get started. They spend another hour working out the details. Betty would offer the girls part-time work at her store, starting with inventory organization. Pastor Williams would hire them to clean and organize at the church. Mrs. Chun would pay them to help prepare her garden for winter. Each job would provide real wages for real work for Maria and Robert. The approach would be more delicate. Dr. Henderson would casually mention the bookkeeping opportunity during one of Maria's appointments. Pastor Williams would ask Robert about the handyman work, making it sound like the church had been planning these repairs for months. What about their heating situation? Tom asked. Betty had another idea. My store runs a heating oil program every winter for elderly customers. I could expand it to include families with medical needs. Make it sound like a community service program, not charity. As the meeting wrapped up, Tom felt hopeful for the first time in days. These weren't just jobs being created out of pity. They were real opportunities that would benefit both the family and the community. One more thing, Pastor Williams said as they prepared to leave. Let's keep this between us for now. If word gets out that we organized this, it might embarrass the family. Everyone agreed. They would each approach the family naturally over the next week, making their offers seem like happy coincidences, driving back up his mountain that night. Tom felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with his truck's heater. Tomorrow, he would drive down to visit Lily and Rose, and he might just have some good news to share. He thought about the girls' faces when they first appeared on his porch, whispering their desperate request. Soon, instead of whispering about their problems, they might be talking excitedly about new opportunities. Sometimes, Tom reflected, the best way to help people is to give them chances to help themselves. And sometimes it takes a whole community to make sure good people don't fall through the cracks. 3 days after the community meeting, Tom drove down the mountain with a thermos of hot soup and a heart full of nervous excitement. He had called ahead to let the family know he was coming, not wanting to intrude unexpectedly during such a difficult time. When he arrived at the small house on Maple Street, Lily and Rose ran out to greet him despite the cold morning air. Their faces lit up with genuine joy, and Tom realized how much he had missed seeing them every day. "Mr. Tom," Rose called out, wrapping her arms around his waist in a tight hug. "We've missed you so much," Lily added, taking his free hand and leading him toward the house. Inside, Tom found Robert sitting carefully on the couch, his back clearly still causing him pain. Maria was in a chair nearby, wrapped in a thick blanket but looking more alert than she had during Tom's previous visit. "Tom, thank you for coming," Robert said, attempting to stand before Tom waved him back down. "Please don't get up." "How are you feeling?" "Better today," Robert admitted. "The doctor gave me some exercises to do, and Maria's been making sure I actually do them." Maria smiled weakly. "Someone has to keep him from trying to do too much too soon." Little Danny peeked out from behind the couch, holding a small wooden truck. Tom had brought the toy on his last visit, and it was clearly Danny's new favorite thing. "Hi, Mr. Tom," Danny said shyly. "Want to see my truck?" For the next few minutes, Tom sat on the floor with Danny, admiring how the truck could roll across the wooden boards and make engine noises. The simple joy on the little boy's face reminded Tom of why this family was so special. As they talked, Tom carefully brought up the first part of the community's plan. "I was wondering," he said to the girls, "how would you feel about working somewhere other than my cabin for a while?" Both girls looked worried immediately. "Did we do something wrong?" Lily asked. "Not at all," Tom assured her quickly. "It's just that winter makes it hard for you to get to my place safely. But I heard that Mrs. Patterson at the general store might be looking for help during the busy holiday season." Rose's eyes widened. "Really? She would want us to work at her store?" "I think so. She mentioned that she needs people who are careful and good with organizing. Sound like anyone you know?" The girls looked at each other with growing excitement. "When could we start?" Lily asked. "Why don't you walk over there this afternoon and ask her about it?" Tom suggested. "She's usually there until 5 o'clock. After Tom left, Lily and Rose could barely contain their excitement. They spent the rest of the morning cleaning the house extra thoroughly and practicing polite things to say to Mrs. Patterson. At 2 o'clock, they bundled up in their thin coats and walked the half-mile to Patterson's general store. The bell above the door chimed. As they entered, and Betty looked up from her inventory clipboard with a warm smile. "Well, if it isn't Tom Wilson's helpers," she said cheerfully. "What brings you girls to town today?" "Mr. Tom said you might need help at your store," Lily said politely. Betty pretended to consider this for a moment. "You know, I actually do need some assistance. The holidays are coming up, and I can barely keep up with stocking shelves and organizing the back room." She led them to the storage area behind the main store, which was indeed quite cluttered with boxes of holiday merchandise. "This all needs to be sorted, organized, and priced," Betty explained. "It's careful work that requires people who pay attention to details." The girls looked around at the task ahead of them, and instead of being overwhelmed, they seemed energized. "We could do this," Rose said confidently. "When would you like us to start?" Lily asked. "How about tomorrow morning? I'll pay you $5 an hour each, and I usually need help for about 4 hours a day." The girls did quick math in their heads. $20 a day between them was more money than they had ever earned before. "That would be wonderful, Mrs. Patterson," Lily said, trying to keep the excitement out of her voice. "Oh, and one more thing," Betty added casually. "I always pay new employees their first week in advance. Store policy. Here's $40 to help you get started." The girls stared at the money in amazement. $40 felt like a fortune. That evening, when their father came home from his doctor's appointment, the girls could barely wait to share their news. "Daddy, we got real jobs," Rose announced proudly. Robert listened as they explained about working at the general store, his expression mixing pride with concern. "Are you sure Mrs. Patterson really needs the help?" he asked gently. "I don't want people creating jobs just to help us. She showed us all the work that needs doing, Lily assured him. There are boxes and boxes of things that need organizing. Maria reached out and squeezed her husband's hand. Let them do this, Robert. They want to help, and it sounds like honest work. The next morning, Lily and Rose walked to the general store with more spring in their step than they'd had in weeks. Betty put them to work immediately, and they dove into their tasks with enthusiasm. By lunchtime, they had made remarkable progress organizing the holiday inventory. Betty was genuinely impressed by their efficiency and attention to detail. You girls are natural organizers, she told them during their break. I might have to make this a permanent position. Meanwhile, across town, Pastor Williams was implementing his part of the plan. He stopped by the house that afternoon while the girls were at work. Robert, I hope you don't mind me dropping by, the pastor said. I wanted to talk to you about something. Of course, Pastor. Please sit down. Our church has been planning some maintenance projects for months now, Pastor Williams began, sticking to the script they had agreed upon. Nothing too strenuous? Painting, fixing loose boards, small repairs. I was wondering if you might be interested in handling these projects once your back is feeling better. Robert's face showed immediate interest. What kind of timeline are we talking about? No rush at all. We want to make sure you're fully healed first. But when you're ready, we could really use someone reliable to tackle these tasks. They discussed the details, and Pastor Williams explained that the church could pay a fair hourly wage for the work. I'd be happy to do it, Robert said, and for the first time in weeks, Tom could see hope returning to the man's eyes. The third part of the plan unfolded 2 days later when Dr. Henderson casually mentioned to Maria during her appointment that he needed help organizing patient files. It's work you could do from home, he explained. Nothing complicated, just filing and basic organization. I could drop off boxes of files, and you could work on them whenever you're feeling up to it. Maria's face brightened at the possibility of contributing to the family's income again. I'd love to help, she said. I used to do bookkeeping before the children were born. By the end of the week, the transformation was remarkable. The girls were earning steady money at the general store and loving their work. Robert had a job waiting for him when his back healed. Maria had begun working on Dr. Henderson's files from her bed, earning money while getting stronger. Most importantly, the family spirits had lifted dramatically. There was laughter in their small house again, and hope had replaced desperation. When Tom visited that weekend, he found a completely different family than the one he had worried about just days before. Mr. Tom, Lily said, rushing to hug him, everything is getting better. We're earning real money, Rose added proudly, and Mama is feeling stronger every day. As Tom looked around at their happy faces, he realized that the community's plan had worked perfectly. The family had no idea that their sudden good fortune had been carefully orchestrated by people who cared about them. Sometimes, Tom thought to himself, the best miracles are the ones that look like lucky coincidences. 2 years had passed since that cold morning when Lily and Rose first whispered their desperate request on Tom's porch. Now, on a warm spring afternoon, Tom sat in the same rocking chair where he had spent so many quiet, lonely hours before the girls came into his life, but today his porch was far from quiet. Rose, now 10 years old, was reading aloud from a chapter book while Lily, 12 and growing tall, worked on a math problem that would have challenged many high school students. Little Danny, now 6, was building an elaborate fort with wooden blocks on the porch floor. Listen to this part, Mr. Tom, Rose said excitedly, looking up from her book. The main character just discovered a secret garden hidden behind the old cottage. That sounds wonderful, Tom replied, setting down his coffee to give her his full attention. What do you think she'd find there? Rose's eyes sparkled with imagination. Maybe magical flowers that can grant wishes, or friendly animals that can talk? Lily looked up from her math homework and smiled at her sister's creativity. Or maybe just a peaceful place where she can think and dream. Tom chuckled softly. Even at 12, Lily was the practical one. Though her dreams were just as big as her sister's, the sound of a car pulling up the mountain road caught their attention. Maria stepped out of the family's used sedan, the same car they had been able to buy 6 months ago when their financial situation finally stabilized. "Hello, everyone," Maria called out, looking healthier and happier than Tom had ever seen her. Her cheeks had color again, and she moved with the energy of someone who was truly well. "Mama!" Danny dropped his blocks and ran to hug her legs. "How did the doctor's appointment go?" Lily asked, though she could tell from her mother's smile that the news was good. "Dr. Henderson says my lungs are completely clear," Maria announced. "No more medicine, no more monthly checkups. I'm officially healthy again." The celebration that followed was joyful but not surprising. Maria's recovery had been steady over the past year, aided by proper medicine, good food, and the reduced stress of having stable income. "Where's Daddy?" Rose asked. "He's finishing up his work at the church," Maria replied. Pastor Williams had one more repair job for him before he starts his new position at the hardware store next week. Tom smiled at this news. Robert's back had healed completely, and his careful, skilled work at the church had impressed everyone in town. When old Mr. Garcia decided to retire from his hardware store, he had asked Robert to take over managing the day-to-day operations. And Mrs. Patterson said, "You girls can have the afternoon off to celebrate Mama's good news." Maria added, the girls had continued working at the general store, but now it was by choice rather than necessity. Betty had grown so fond of them that she often said they were the best employees she'd ever had. They had saved enough money to buy school supplies, new clothes, and even small gifts for their family as the afternoon wore on. Tom found himself reflecting on how much had changed. The small house on Maple Street had been fixed up with Robert's handyman skills and now had proper heating, fresh paint, and a beautiful garden that Mrs. Chun had helped the girls plant. "Mr. Tom," Lily said, interrupting his thoughts, "we have something to tell you." Tom raised his eyebrows with curiosity as both girls came to stand beside his rocking chair. "There's a new family that moved to town last week," Rose began. "They have 3 little kids," Lily continued, "and the father lost his job at his old town." Tom began to see where this was going, and his heart filled with pride. "We heard they don't have much money for food," Rose said quietly. "And the kids look really sad and scared. We were wondering," Lily said, "if maybe we could help them the way everyone helped us." Tom looked at these 2 remarkable young ladies who had once been desperate children whispering for help, and he marveled at how they had grown. They had learned that receiving help with dignity was important, but they had also learned that giving help was equally meaningful. "What did you have in mind?" Tom asked. "Well," Lily said thoughtfully, "Mrs. Patterson mentioned that she could use even more help at the store during summer tourist season. And Pastor Williams said the church always has projects that need doing," Rose added. "Plus Mama's bookkeeping. Business is getting so busy that she might need an assistant." Lily continued. Tom realized that the girls weren't just thinking about offering charity to this new family. They were thinking about creating opportunities, just as the community had done for them. "Have you talked to your parents about this?" Tom asked. "Daddy said it was a wonderful idea," Maria said, overhearing their conversation. "He remembers what it felt like to be new and struggling, and he wants to make sure other families don't go through what we did." That evening, Tom found himself driving down the mountain with Lily, Rose, and their parents to visit the new family. They brought groceries, of course, but more importantly, they brought hope and a plan. The new family, a father named Michael, his wife Susan, and their 3 young children, were living in a small rented house near the edge of town. When Tom and the others arrived, he could see the same mixture of pride and desperation in the parents' eyes that he had once seen in Robert and Maria. "We heard you just moved to town," Robert said warmly, introducing himself and his family. "We wanted to welcome you to the community." As the adults talked, Lily and Rose naturally gravitated toward the 3 children, 2 boys aged 7 and 9, and a little girl who was about 5. Tom watched as the girls gently drew the shy children into conversation, sharing stories about their favorite places in town and promising to show them the best spots for finding wildflowers. "There are lots of opportunities for work here," Maria told Susan quietly. I do bookkeeping from home, and I know several people who could use help with their businesses. The general store always needs reliable people, Robert added, talking to Michael. And there's plenty of handyman work around town if you're interested. Tom listened to these conversations and realized something beautiful was happening. Robert and Maria weren't just offering help, they were sharing their own journey of rebuilding their lives, proving that recovery and success were possible later. As they drove back up the mountain, Tom felt a deep contentment settling in his chest. "Mr. Tom," Rose said from the back seat, "do you think we helped them feel better?" "I think you helped them feel hopeful," Tom replied. "And sometimes that's the most important gift you can give someone. Will you help us make sure they're okay?" Lily asked. "Of course," Tom promised. "We're all in this together now." As they reached Tom's cabin, the girls gave him their usual goodbye hugs, but tonight felt different somehow. These weren't the desperate children who had once needed his help to survive. They were confident young people who understood the power of community and the importance of lifting each other up. After the family drove away, Tom sat on his porch in the gathering darkness, listening to the peaceful sounds of his mountain home. The chipmunk they had named Acorn scampered across the porch railing, as if checking to make sure Tom was settling in for the night. 2 years ago, Lily and Rose had whispered their desperate plea for help, asking if they could clean his cabin to feed their sick mother. Tonight, those same girls were planning how to help another family facing similar struggles. The circle was complete, Tom realized. He had gained 2 granddaughters and a purpose that filled his retirement years with joy. The girls had gained confidence, education, and most importantly, the knowledge that they were valued members of a caring community. And now, a new family would benefit from the same network of support that had transformed the lives of 2 little girls who were brave enough to ask for help when they needed it most. Sometimes, Tom thought as he headed inside, the smallest acts of kindness create ripples that spread far beyond what anyone could imagine.